Hello once again, Niner faithful. We got an early Christmas gift on Sunday when the 49ers were able to pull out a huge win over the Los Angeles Rams. It was a hard-fought game, you could see that on the film, and in the end was decided by a few plays here and there. The biggest key to the win, in my opinion, was Jimmy Garoppolo. While his numbers on the day weren't great, he was able to make some big-time throws on each scoring drive, converting several third and longs in the game on top of the two big ones that everyone remembers at the end of the game. While it wasn't a perfect game from him by any means, there were still a number of plays that reminded us exactly why there was so much excitement in having him as our quarterback of the future, and why we have a lot to be excited about heading into the postseason. In this episode, I'm going to basically have it in two different sections. The first, looking at some of Jimmy's big-time throws, and then looking at why and how the Rams were able to run basically the same play over and over again against our defense. In everything, it was a great game, and coming out with a win sets up a huge matchup between the 49ers and Seahawks this Sunday night. So with all that, let's jump into the film. The first play we're going to look at is a big third down conversion on a scoring drive. Here, the Rams are going to look to get pressure, so will come with a fire zone blitz with 3 deep and 3 underneath, while dropping Clay Matthews, the defensive end, into coverage. They're trying to show heavy pressure to the top with 5 potential rushers off that side, but will come with a blitz to the opposite side. For us, we're going to run a Mills concept with Emmanuel Sanders and Kendrick Bourne. The Mills is a vertical stretch and works well against a number of coverages. It consists of an inside-in route at 8 to 10 yards and a post route from the outside. The pre-snap look by the Rams looks like possible cover 6 from the secondary, but because of the blitz they're going to be rotating, and the safety, Weddle, will be the deep third defender to the boundary side. As Jimmy takes the snap, he's going to keep his eyes down the middle of the field. From there, he sees the underneath defender turn away from the Mills concept side, and Matthews is in no position to take away Sanders' route. From there, he's going to read the deep safety. If the safety jumps the in route, he throws the post. If he stays back, he throws the in route. With the safety still in his back pedal, he sees that Sanders will break open over the middle and makes a pinpoint throw with anticipation. From the end zone, we can see just how well Jimmy threw this ball. As he starts his windup, you'll see that Sanders hasn't broken open yet. Jimmy understands the coverage and is going to throw into a spot in the zone. You'll also see how good his ball placement is. He places the ball where it allows Sanders to turn his body and is protected from the defender. Young quarterbacks will have a tendency to lead their receivers into a big hit there, but this is just incredible accuracy on an important third down. A few plays later on the same drive, we're going to get Kittle for a big gain. While this seems like another time when we're just working Kittle, it's just the result of Jimmy working the coverage, and why this team is able to have an explosive offense. On this play, the Rams are going to go back to man coverage. They want to get tight coverage across the board and also bring pressure, so they're coming with cover 1 man with a 5-man rush. We're going to run a slant flat concept to the top with Debo and Coleman, and then run a sucker concept with Bourne and Sanders, with Kittle running a crossing route. So with this kind of play, the sucker is one that will work really well against zone. I've talked about it a number of times before, and the slant flat can work well against some zone coverages and man coverage. What I know about Shanahan is that he likes the slant flat against man coverage. The reason I say that is because LA tried to show zone pre-snap by not having anyone follow Kittle when he motioned inside. Jimmy is going to see its man coverage because of Jalen Ramsey's alignment. He's squared up and shaded inside, something he does in man coverage every time. So at the snap, Jimmy looks to work the slant flat as you get a pick rub action on that play. He sees that both routes are taken away and quickly moves to his third read in the progression and hits Kittle perfectly in stride for a nice gain. From the end zone, you'll see Jimmy first look to the slant flat and then reset his feet, and watch how accurate this throw is. That's perfect ball placement. These are the types of throws that makes Jimmy special and why I keep saying he has elite arm talent. The next play, you're just going to see a nice gain to George Kittle, and remember this play for when we talk about the Seahawks game in my next episode. This is the beauty of when the run game starts tying in with the passing game. What we're going to do is run Y Speedo. It's a Speedo concept with the tight end. The Speedo is one where you have a clearing route, a flat route or underneath occupying route, and a deep over route. We tie it all in with run action, and it looks to defeat cover 3 by clearing out the deep third defender and hitting a player in the intermediate area. You'll see how the run action sucks up the underneath coverage, and George Kittle is running wide open. He then also runs like George Kittle and isn't going to go down easily. Watch Jalen Ramsey miss this tackle on George. So after George getting a big gain and then working some run blocking duties, we're going to give him a rest and bring in Ross Dwelley. And we come out in 21 personnel with 2 backs and 1 tight end. This is the advantage our versatile personnel gives us. We come out in a run package but are able to go into an empty set, and each player is still a viable receiving threat. Because Jimmy had been beating them earlier on the drive with some quick throws, the Rams decide not to bring any pressure. So now they're going to drop 8 on the play and still give up a huge gain. They're going to run cover 3 zone, but with an 8th defender dropping, we'll have 5 underneath. On our side, we're going to run the 4 verticals concept, or as Nick Saban calls it, a Seattle concept. It's a deep horizontal stretch of the defense and works well against cover 2 and cover 3. The read against cover 3 is the middle safety. Whichever side he goes to, the quarterback throws to the opposite side. The quarterback can also look a safety to one side to open up the other. Here, Jimmy's going to look off to his left, and Weddle, the deep safety, shades to that side. The timing is a little off here as Jimmy is probably used to Kittle running this route, so he turns his head to find Dwelley a little early, and he's not ready yet, so he has to take a couple extra hitches, but still makes a nice throw to Dwelley. The reason I point out the timing is that because he had to hold the ball just a half second longer, that allowed Weddle to close on the tight end and get a big hit. But it still sets up the team for one of their touchdowns in the game. So now we're going to look at the 2 big third down conversions to win the game. We're going to run a double dig concept. I've talked about the double dig a lot, but it's just going to be 2 deep in routes and looks to put the defense in a horizontal stretch. Bourne is going to sit his route down a little early because that's what Jimmy told him to do in the huddle. The Rams are going to be in cover 3 zone. Jimmy sees the coverage pre-snap, so in his dropback, he's going to look the backside hook curl defender off to widen a hole for Bourne. From there, it's just his elite arm talent. He's going to thread the needle for a huge gain on 3rd down. From the end zone, you'll really be able to appreciate how good of a throw this was from Jimmy. This might be one of the biggest plays of the year for the 49ers, considering what was at stake on this play. It's hard to tell if this is a Mills concept or a deep sucker concept because Bourne may have broken his route off early again, but I think it's a Mills concept and Bourne breaks his route off early. I talked about the Mills earlier, but it's just an in route with a post outside of it. The Rams, as Jalen Ramsey said, were in a form of cover 2, and they're going to get a weird bust on the play. I'm not sure if this was a game plan thing or the safety thought he had a read on something. I saw this in the Falcons game where one of the safeties took a really wide set and was able to jump one of our corner routes. I think that's what's happening here. But in the end, he ends up taking a really wide drop. In the end, I do think Ramsey is tossing this guy under the bus because the post routes work well against cover 2 as the middle of the field is wide open. Ramsey has no excuse for playing lazy coverage. Notice how lazy he is in just letting Sanders run right by. Compare that to the other side. He doesn't redirect the route in any way and then isn't in any sort of close trail position like he's supposed to. In the end, it's a gift for the 49ers as Jimmy saw the safety split and went for the post. It's all the more impressive because his arm got hit on the play, and he was still able to get enough on the pass to launch the ball over 50 yards from where he was standing. So now we'll move on to the defense and look at why and how the Rams were able to move up and down the field off the same play. This is their first play of the game. They're going to come out in a condensed set and run a counter zone run. They look to attack play side with an outside zone, but then bring a blocker back across the formation to kick out the M-loss, or end man on the line of scrimmage, and run in between the defensive end and the defensive tackle. They don't get much of anything on this play, but this plays into what we do on the defensive side. So keeping that last play in mind, let's go back to the first meeting these two teams had. This is the first play of the game from earlier in the year. They're going to run the exact same play. In week 1, they ran this play 4 or 5 times on the first drive of the game and went right down the field to score. Here, we were having our defensive ends attack upfield first, and then crash down. The problem was that with the off-ball defender having to also account for the player coming across the formation as a receiver, it kept leaving the C-gap wide open, just like this. So one way you take that counter run away is by running what's called a scrape exchange on the outside. Where in a wide 9, the defensive end would have outside contain, and the off-ball defender, either a linebacker or safety, will have the C-gap. You exchange gap responsibilities and have the off-ball defender scrape over the top. This way you collapse the C-gap. So in the first meeting, that's the adjustment Saleh and his team made to contain the Rams' running game after the first drive. They ran a lot of slants and scrape exchanges like what you will see here. So having shown that counter run first, the Rams now have a setup. They're going to keep coming with a slide concept, where you fake the outside zone / counter, and then run a 3-level passing concept away from it. What that did was put our underneath defenders in conflict. They were both in outside contain and coverage responsibilities. The defensive ends were doing their job. They were looking to collapse the C-gap, as it seemed like we kept thinking they were going to go back to the counter run. But instead, the Rams just kept running this play over and over again. So, coming out of halftime, we finally adjusted. What we did was have Bosa first attack the C-gap, and we put the contained defender on the line of scrimmage. This created a wider front. By doing this, when the receiver comes across the formation, Harris was in a position to jam him, as it's illegal. That way, he could also play contain early and then coverage. Because it first plays contain, it allows Bosa to come off his block and put pressure on Goff, who just has to throw the ball away. So we did finally make an adjustment. I just wish that we had done this about a quarter sooner. It seemed like we kept expecting that counter run, but it never happened. Well, that's it for this review episode, guys. Thanks for tuning in. It was a great win, and it's hard to believe this team already has 12 wins and is aiming for their 13th win, coming off such a rough year last year. Well, stay alert, turn your notifications on. I'm already working on a preview video for the upcoming game against the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday Night Football. I hope to have that out early Friday morning. As always, if you'd like to support the channel in any way, I will have links for that below. And as always, until next time, go Niners.